Let's talk about Pragashini-Smuts because we've not done anything on that yet. When did you, and leave the gap, remember, and try and repeat a bit of the answer, the question and the answer. When did you start writing the Pragashini-Smuts Affair?
I began writing the Pragashini-Smuts Affair when I overcame the writer's block that I'd been experiencing while in South Africa. I'd returned to the UK and I had all these ideas in my head about what I wanted to do. Obviously I was full of the experience of having been back in South Africa, but I had been unable to write while there. So I began writing when I returned to England.
What would you say are the main themes of the novel?
The most important theme for me was the relationship between Indians and Africans in South Africa, because it's always been very contentious where there have been large numbers of Indians in the population. And I wanted to write about an intimate relationship between an African man and an Indian girl.
How did you go about choosing the names for the main characters?
Well, with Pragashini, I just liked the sound of it. I did search along for a long time and I did use other names as I was writing various drafts, but I finally hit upon the name Pragashini. And I remember when the book was published, someone phoned me from South Africa and said that she thought it was a male name. And there was a lot of discussion around whether the male name was Prakash and the female was Pragashini, you know. But the name Smuts, it's very common for someone in South Africa to have a first name, Smuts. And it's probably connected with the general Smuts, you know, maybe that's why people give somebody a first name Smuts.
To what extent can the novel be considered semi-autobiographical or autobiographical?
I try in my writing, I know people say that most writing is autobiographical, but I try in my writing to steer clear of things that have happened to me. So I wouldn't say that it's even semi-autobiographical. It would be too close to me to be able to write about my own experiences, whether in South Africa or here.
So you don't think there's anything of the younger you in the Pragashini character?
Maybe some of the qualities in the character, but certainly not in the plot lines or anything like that.
When did you decide to split it into two separate novels?
I was this Pragashini-Smuts Affair was a very long novel with another title, and I was struggling, really struggling to find firstly a literary agent and then a publisher. And I even tried, I submitted it to South Africa, to a major publisher in South Africa. I tried 2 South African literary agencies here, and they wouldn't represent me. And the publisher just held on to the book and the manuscript and did nothing about it in South Africa. So somebody here, a colleague, advised me to find a point in the novel where I could cut it off and make it into either 2 or 3 books to form a trilogy, perhaps. And when that was suggested to me, then I decided I would do that. And somewhere along the line, the name Pragashini-Smuts developed for the first part of the book.
What titles are you considering for the sequel?
I'm considering some titles, but I understand that they're not very popular.
Is that something you might blog about?
I might blog about the titles, yes.
The first novel obviously left many unanswered questions. What can readers expect in the sequel? What kind of things can you maybe give us a sneak preview of?
Well, in the Pragashini-Smuts Affair, it ends with her returning to South Africa, and I hope that in the sequel, a lot of the issues that are unanswered in the first part, in the first volume, will be answered there. Whether it goes on to make a trilogy, I'm not yet certain in my mind.
And when can we expect to see the sequel published?
Because the book was completed when I was submitting the manuscript all around the country, it is completed, but it simply means that I will rework it, the second half, and I hope that it will come out probably early in 2012 or at the end of 2011.
I think that's good.